One of the biggest elements in fashion that is constantly changing is the silhouettes of sleeves. In this video, we'll explore the different sleeve silhouettes offered in the fashion design book, along with many different cuff details. There are so many different silhouette options in the book, but I want you to know this is not all of the sleeve options that are out there. With the detailed images of the library in the book, you're really going to be able to explore your creativity and even create new silhouettes based on existing silhouettes in the book. Are you ready to create your unique designs with eye-catching details? Let's get right to it. Sleeves can really change for different eras of fashion. I want you to think of the 1800s. Back in the Victorian period in the late 1800s, sleeves were very poofed, but then quite fitted at the lower part. Another era that was very popular for the shape of the sleeve was the 80s. The 1980s brought so many different sleeve shapes, particularly the huge puff sleeve. In addition, the 80s brought very broad shoulders, along with shoulder pads and a slight bit of ease in sleeve caps on blazers. So as we're designing sleeves, we definitely need to consider the fabric that you choose. How will the fabric drape? Refer back to the video earlier in the book about fabric drape. This is very important in order for you to achieve the silhouette that you want in your sleeve. If you want something to have a nice fullness and structure to it, you need to have a fabric that has full body or more body. If you want something to be very flowing, you need to have a soft drape in your fabric. So always consider the types of fabric you have when you're designing sleeves. Before we get into sketching different sleeves with the fashion design book, you should know that there are two methods in using the book. We've gone through this in previous videos, but just as a reminder, you can use the copy or tracing method using tracing paper, or you can use the book as a reference guide, only looking at the book to see how the silhouettes are drawn. I'll go through both of those options now. All right, so let's go ahead and start sketching some sleeves. I want you to look at whatever sleeve speaks to you and the design that you want to create. And if you want to change it, feel free to do so. I'm going to be sketching something with a cuff, and we can see that we have a whole library of cuffs to choose from as well. And we can change any of the design details with these cuffs, like the height of the cuff or this top stitching or the amount of buttons or snaps, things like that. Besides all of the sleeves in the sleeve section of the book, I want you to also make sure you check out the sleeves in the styled tops section. So we have even a lot more options here with more sleeves. So even though they're not in the sleeve section, feel free to take a sleeve from any of these styles and change it to how you would like it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and take a style with a long sleeve to add a cuff to it. I think I'm going to take the crescent sleeve, and I'm going to do that with a cuff that'll look really nice. So as we've gone through in other videos, you are more than welcome to first copy the croquis, trace it with your tracing paper, or with sleeves, it's really easy to just start tracing the top like this without the croquis underneath. I am going to go ahead and find my center lines. So I'd still like to work from my center line always. So folding the paper in half and then half again, and that's going to be the center of my sketch. I'm only going to be sketching half of it. Now, when I sketch, I do a lot of freehand. Even when I am tracing, I don't use the rulers that much, but feel free to practice with those rulers to get nice continuous curves as you want. This first method is called the tracing method or copy method. And I'm going to bump the sleeve down a little bit because I'm going to allow a little more space for my cuff. I'm going to go ahead and draw in my hand in there. And now I can see I have a little bit of a gap there, and that's going to be for my cuff detail. I'm also going to draw in my armhole here and my neckline. Then I can go to the cuff section and draw the cuff. I can always change up where I want those pleats to be for those shapes or things like that on the design if I wanted. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one where it's at though. And we're gonna go to the cuff section. Now I wanna get into different cuff details. The cuff of a sleeve can be any height you wish. You are the designer. So even though there are somewhat standard heights in the fashion design book, you can choose to make it longer or shorter as you see fit. As well, this cuff section can also be utilized for blazers, jackets, or coats. So you can always make them wider if you'd like to use them with different layering. So the cuffs, you're gonna see, are mainly for tops, and we can always switch it up for jackets as well, making them slightly bigger, and we can choose based on the style details. Now you are going to notice with this that it says here cuffs with plackets are the back view of the garment. So this would be the back view of the garment here. We'll get more into that in another video, but for now you should just note that anything with buttons or a placket, generally that's on the back side of the garment. So we wouldn't necessarily be drawing that on the front for those details. So we can see I really like this one here. So I'm going to be using that one as my standard here. Make it a little bit smaller in width and taller in height. And I like those little cut lines in there, so I'm going to keep that. And you can see I have not drawn the buttons or the placket in because that would be on my back view. So the sleeve is ready to go, and we can then add any other silhouette or design details that we want, whether we want to make this into a dress or a blouse. That's totally up to you as the designer. So when I'm choosing the rest of my style, in some cases you might want to go back and draw in that croquis if you want, or you can use the book as it is. So here I'm going to still only draw half of my garment, and here I want to do pleats that kind of mimic the sleeve pleats. So instead of darts, I'm going to do pleats, and I'm going to do pleats going up as well. Then I need to choose my neckline. If I don't want this neckline, I can choose from all the other necklines. Actually, I kind of like that one for this style though. Maybe we'll go with something more with slashed, like that, similar. And then we're folding it in half and we're doing the other half, just drawing and tracing it through. So whether you're using the reference method or the tracing method, whenever we're doing the symmetry, we always do the tracing. It's always the best way to get an even garment. And you'll notice in the fashion design book that there are many blank pages for you to add your own designs in, to customize. Now, when you are doing your own designs, you can always cut and paste those designs in instead of drawing them directly in the book. So that is my style. Might choose to add a nice belt here that kind of mimics the cuff detail. So if I look at the belts, they're in the back. You can see I have a lot of belt buckles that are close up to see how those look in drawing, and then the smaller version is here. I think I will go with that one. And of course the location of where that belt is depends on the size that you need. So this is a little bit wider than I need for the true waist. Draw in my belt. And we make it just a little bit wider with the same kind of seams that I have on my cuffs. Now if I was using the reference method, I could simply just look at the image and try to draw it on my sketch here. And that's the other option. So there it is, that's all done. When I'm drawing the back, I would go ahead and copy the back here, through the entire outside silhouette is the back version, and then I can draw in any sort of design lines I want on the back. It doesn't have to mirror the same exact thing on the front. And then of course I would have my buttons and a placket back there if I wanted a placket. That's it. That is my sketch with sleeves and a cuff. If you have a concept in your mind for a new sleeve silhouette, what should you do if it's not in the fashion design book? Well, the easiest thing to do here is to see what's closest in the silhouette that you want to achieve and start from that sleeve. Then imagine the sleeve that you want to create, or if you have inspiration to look at, you can visualize that sleeve and make any adjustments to it as needed. Let's go through an example for this now. Let's say I don't want to use the tracing method with placing the paper on the sketch and just tracing it. Let's try with the reference method. Now I have gone ahead and traced the croquis here, and that just gives me a great base if I'm not really good with proportions. And if you are really good with proportions, you could even skip that step. I've only traced half of my croquis. I only draw half at a time. Let's say I want to draw this puff sleeve right here, and maybe I don't even want it as puffy. I just want a slight puff to it. I'm going to be just looking at the sketches and kind of seeing, is that exactly what I want? If it's not, I can change it up, and I can just reference those sketches, those details, as I see fit. So now at this point, before I start adding all that shirring in there, I want to erase my croquis underneath. So it's just referencing it to see how does it look, how should I draw it, do I want it to be exactly like this? Like here I shortened it up quite a bit. I made it slightly less full in the puff, but something a little bit more moderate there. So let's say you wanted to do some ruffles or other cascading type effects with the ruffles on the sleeves. You can always refer to this section in the book and refer to those style tops as well to add other types of sleeve details. So that is my sleeve when I do the reference method instead of the tracing method. If you're not sure where to start in your sketch, if you don't know what type of sleeve you want, you might want to start with the silhouette of the body first. Maybe there's a silhouette that speaks to you and what you're envisioning in your design. Then if you want a statement sleeve, come back to the sleeve section later. You can mix and match until you're pleased with that final design. Homework for today, draw a style using the sleeves in the fashion design book. And if you want to join the challenge, post your photo of your sketch to any social media platform with the hashtag #FlatSketchChallenge and the second hashtag, the fashion design book. The winner is going to get an entire bundle package of the fashion design book, including a signed copy, the Adobe Illustrator version, and the PDF version. Additionally, you'll get a 30-minute video call with me, and we can discuss any sort of questions you have around fashion, sketching, or pattern making. I can't wait to see what you design. To be eligible for this, you must use the fashion design book in coming up with your designs. Of course, you can change those sketches as you see fit, so that it speaks to your own design aesthetic. I really hope you're enjoying this series as we go along through all of the videos in the fashion design book. It is so much fun to see everyone's progress here. I'm absolutely loving the comments, messages, emails, everything. Thank you so much for connecting with me. In case you don't have the fashion design book, you can find it on Amazon and most online book retail stores, including through a link in the description below. I'm Gina Renee, and I teach online pattern making and design courses so that you can design and sew clothes you love that fit. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.